In this video, we are going to create a very simple maze program, having something travel through a maze. And if you watch a previous video I made on pseudocode, we actually wrote some design for this. So if you want to look at that video, I'll put a link in the description. So check that out first. So we created some pseudocode, looks kind of like this. So you're going to have a maze. There's going to be a start and an end position. There's going to be a restart button. And then we're going to have something that travels through the maze using the arrow keys as a way to transport it through the maze. And so we have some very basic, simple pseudocode here. And again, we know it's not going to be complete, but it just gives us a starting point. So the green flag, when they click on that, that will start the game. And then I'm going to broadcast something to say, start the game. And the reason I'm doing it that way is because there's a restart sprite that will allow it to restart the game. So I want it to be able to get back to that part. So when I get a start game, I'm going to set my maze runner to the start icon that I have to create. And then this is some pseudocode for when I get an up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, right arrow. So let's go back to scratch here. So first thing I need to do is actually create the project. So there's a number of ways to do that. You can just go right to the create button. You can click on this little folder here, or you can go for where your account is, click on my stuff. It all basically, well, this is like an extra step. Create gets you right into a new one. This just kind of shows you other things that you have, and you can click on new project. So I'm going to click new project and it's creating it. One thing that a lot of people forget to do is to give a title. So let's do that first thing. You never want to release something called untitled. So I'm just going to call this simple maze because it is a very simple maze. It's not going to be all that complicated. I have my default sprite, which is Scratchy. And for now, I think I'm just going to get rid of him, and you can just click on the little trash can. And so before we begin, I just want to remind you that hopefully you have your environment up at the same time that you're watching this video and kind of do the steps along with me, especially if you're brand new to Scratch and brand new to coding. Remember, it's a video, so you can pause it. You can go backwards if you miss something. Feel free to do that. So I'm just going to kind of go through some steps, and I'd like you to follow along with me if you can. So let's see. Now I have a completely blank slate here. So I want to actually create a backdrop. So this area that says stage, that's kind of the background of what the app is going to look like. And I'm going to put my mazes in there. So I'm going to start with using the little paint icon. If you hit the choose a backdrop here, you just get the ones that come with Scratch. You can actually draw it offline and upload one, which maybe the final product is something you'd want to do. But for now, I don't want a surprise. For now, I'm just going to make my own. So if you select paint, I'm in the vector image mode, and I'm going to create a super simple, dumb maze just to kind of show what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to get a line here, and this is the outline color, which I guess that's fine. See what that thickness is for, so you can play with the thickness. So if I draw one of the lines here now, I'm just going to draw one straight up. If we don't think that's thick enough, we can make it a little bit thicker if we want. And I think I'm actually going to change that color. So you can use these little sliders to adjust it. So let's say I want to pick some blue color. Demo just a little thicker. 5. That looks fine. And notice how I went here to kind of change things around with it so it selects that whole shape. Now I'm going to go back to my line. And again, I'm making the dumbest maze ever. It's just going to be a very simple go up, go across, go down. And then I'm kind of there. And I think once I do that, this becomes like its own. It automatically put them all together. I think if I want to make it a little bit wider, I think I can do that. Then I'm going to create kind of like an inner track. Don't quite know how wide I want to make it. Go across and down. Okay, so it's not a very exact maze. I'm doing one quick and dirty. And the reason I'm starting so simple is because I don't want to get bogged down in how hard the maze is when I'm designing. I want that to be relatively simple. And then later, when I've kind of perfected the rest of my program, I can always make harder mazes. But I just want to have something to start with. Okay, so that's under stage. Now I think I'm ready to start thinking about my sprites. And before I go away from here, I'm actually looking, there's 2 stage costumes here. I don't really want this one, so I'm going to get rid of it. But you can make more than one backdrop. And so if you want to have some simple maze and then a more complicated maze and then one even more complicated, like different levels, you can just create different backdrops and switch the backdrop in your code. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, I'm going to go to my sprites. I've got nothing so far, so let me see what comes with Scratch. Maybe there's one here that I can use. I think I'll look for a little animal. And I think I'm going to actually take Scratchy, but I like this one because it's looking down on it. So like when you're in a maze, I think that would look kind of cool. That's going to be my maze runner. Now I'm looking at how wide I made these, and this guy looks kind of too big. So what I think I'll do is first let me give it a name rather than Cat 2. I guess you could keep it that, but I'm just going to call him Scratchy. Maybe I should call him Maze Runner. Doesn't really matter. And I think that size is too big, so I'm going to play with the size a little bit. So 50%. Now remember, I want him to fit in the width of this so that if he turns left or right, he doesn't hit the side, because remember, when you hit a side, our design said that was endgame. You want to not hit the sides as you go through the maze. So let me try a quarter size. That's kind of tiny. Maybe I'll make him slightly bigger. I'm going to go with 30% size. And then he's facing the wrong way. So what happens when I kind of play with this? So I think I want him to start in the 0 position, at least for this maze. And putting him here and in these positions, I just kind of played with it in the sprite editor just to kind of see what I wanted. But I think I'm actually going to have the code change that for me. So in my pseudocode, I have one when the green flag is hit to broadcast start game. So I think I want to kind of get that going. So in this one, right, I'm going to go to my events, and I'm going to say when the green flag is clicked, I'm going to go now to my broadcast. So I'm going to do a plain broadcast, and I'll have a different video to kind of explain when do you want broadcast, when do you want broadcast and await. One says just go off and do it, and if I have more things to do, they'll run in parallel. Whereas the and wait says do the stuff that was broadcast and then start again. That's kind of it in a nutshell. But for now, I'm just going to put my broadcast here. And it says message 1. Now you can make any message you want. I don't think that's a very descriptive message. And I'm just going to call my message start game. So you just click on new message, type in whatever you want. So what happens here is means any sprite that's listening for this message will start running code. So you have to tell it. Now I actually want this thing to do something. So when I receive, that happens with the broadcast. And these messages need to match. So I'm broadcasting start game. So I'm going to listen for start game, and Scratch helpfully puts the actual broadcast messages in there. So when the green flag is clicked, it's going to broadcast start game, and then it's going to run whatever start game does, which right now is nothing. So setting up an infrastructure. What I actually wanted to do is I want to kind of put him in this correct position. So let's see. We changed his size to 30. So let's see. I think that's under looks. I sometimes forget where all this stuff comes from. Set size 2%, right? So 100%, if I'm just going to click it, makes him that big. And when we played around with it, it looked like 30% was the right size. I'm going to click it again, like, all right. And remember, as you're coding, if you want to change that, you absolutely can. So I also want to make sure that he's pointing in the right direction. And we played with that, and that direction is 0. So I'm going to change. I'm going to go to the point in direction block. And it looks like 0 is what we want. Because if I keep it right at 90, it's the wrong way. So I'm going to put him in 0. And it gives me this helpful little wheel just like the other one. So you can either use that, or I'm just going to type it in. And then look how I can just click on these things to test it. So if I click on the set size to 30, it will automatically run everything under it. And I can even click that. Now I want him to be kind of in the correct location here. And to make sure that happens, I'm going to create another sprite. So to create another sprite, I'm going to go down to this little thing here. And I think I'm going to just create my own here. So I clicked on, again, if you didn't catch that, the little paintbrush. And I'm back here. This time I'm going to make a start button. I'm going to call this. Start is the name of my costume, and I think I'll change my name of the sprite to be Start Button. And I'm going to make a circle. And I think this one I'll just have outlined in black, if I remember how to get to black. Make it a little thicker. And again, you can play with this a bit by just going back here. I want it to look more circle-y. That's kind of big, but I think I'll just play with it there. And I want to give it a fill color. So here where it says fill right now, that means nothing. Keep it transparent. I don't know. It's a good start color. I'm going to use green as end, so I just want a different one. Maybe kind of this orangey color. Great. And then I want to have the word start in it. So I'm going to add some text. And I'm using that same fill color so I can't see it. So change this to be, again, black is good. And I want it to be bigger. So if you just kind of pull it, now over here, it's kind of big, so I could either make it smaller here, and actually what I think I'm going to do with this is I'm going to group it. So I'm going back to the selection tool, and I'm just kind of dragging, and then I'm hitting this group button here. That way if I move this around, all the pieces that I put in to make this stay together. Now so you could do this, and that makes it smaller. And you could also do what we did here, say, well, maybe I'm just going to change it programmatically, but I think I'll just make it a little bit smaller just to begin with. And it needs to be here. And that's still way too big, so maybe I'll just do this. And now he's kind of covering Scratchy, so let's see. The X and the Y tell me exactly where it is. So when I go back to the code, when I get the green flag, so I'm going to make another event for when the green flag is clicked. Move this start button. I'm going to have him go to that particular XY, which is the same that matches here. So if I kind of move this out of the way, when you press that green flag, it puts it in the right spot. Okay, the other thing I want him to do is I want him to go kind of behind, and let's see if this works. I went into the looks thing because I don't like that he's covering my scratchy one. And I'm going to say go to back layer. And now he goes there and he's in the back. So that makes sure he's in that correct spot. When he goes to start, because I still may need some events here if we need to restart the game. And in fact, I think I'd rather do this. Just in case something changes, whenever you start the game, it puts that in the right spot. I don't think we're going to need that, but I think that might be a better place for it. I know I also want to have an end button, and I think what I can do, I think you can just duplicate this. So I'm right-clicking on it. If you say duplicate, I'm going to change this one to be, instead of start button 2, I'm going to call this one end button. And then I'm going to edit this so that it doesn't say start anymore. I need it to say end. So this is end. Okay, so change these words to say end. And I want to move it over a little bit. Oops. I'm just using my right arrow key and bottom, just the arrow keys to help center it a little bit. I don't want this color. I think I want it to be more a green color. And then I'm going to put it over here. And kind of like I did for the start button, I want it to go to the right spot. So I already have this because I copied the sprite. So when I receive start game for this one, his numbers are 210 and negative 116. I do want it to be the same Y so that they match. So now when I press the green flag, they're kind of looking the same. Not bad. I almost have all my sprites. We do need one more sprite, which is the restart button. So I could actually start with one of these. So I'm going to right click and duplicate again. And I'm going to call this one my restart button. And let me edit this one. This is restart. And the words here should say restart. And I think I may change the actual shape of this guy to be more of an elliptical shape so that my word restart fits in there and so that it just looks a little bit different than the other ones. Oops. It's having trouble grabbing that. I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move it over. And I think I'll change that color. More of a pink, I think. Okay. And where do I want this guy to start? I think I'll put it right here. And so I can see what those X's and Y's are. So I go back to the code. I want it to go to 18. And I think I will leave it at the negative 116 so that it is on the same Y level. And I'll just run my start to see if that looks good, and I'm okay with that. So I think I have most of the sprites I need. Now what I like to do is, again, the use of comments. I like to actually label, add comment. I did a right click, add a comment. This is my restart button sprite, and I like just putting that as a general comment. It's not a thing you necessarily have to do, but I find, especially when you add a lot of sprites, we don't have too many here, but if I see this, even though they give me that, I am less likely to make a mistake and make a change in the wrong sprite. So to change your sprites, you just click along here. I'm going to add a comment to say this is the end button. So the next time I'm changing code, it just makes it that much more likely I'm not going to mess it up and put it in the wrong place. Yep. And then this is my scratchy. It's my maze runner. So I think now I'm kind of in this sprite. So things that I need to do here that I had in my pseudocode were to deal with the up and down arrow keys. So how does that work? So I'm under events here. So if you look at this one, when space key pressed, I'm going to pull one of these in. And I want it to react not to the space key, but to another key. And if you click on this, it gives you a whole bunch of keys that you can use. So I think I'll start with up arrow. So when up arrow is pressed on your keyboard, what do I want it to do? I want my little sprite to be pointing up. Now I realize right now it's already pointing up, but what if it had been pointing in a different direction? So I want to make sure I get it to do that. So I'm going to go to, I think that's under motion, and I'm going to just put in a point in direction. And I already know what up is. It's that 0. So I'm going to change this to say 0, or you can use the little dial there. So right now I'm pressing my up arrow key. Since I'm already in that direction, I don't see anything. But then what do I want to do once I'm pointing in the right direction? I want to actually move a little bit. And I'm going to find this move key, move block. So if I press my up arrow key now, or you can just click on this to see what it'll do. So it's moving my little sprite 10. Then I'm going to maybe play with this number. Maybe I want it to move more. So if I put in 15, it moves that much. Maybe I want to move less. And maybe that's okay. I don't know, because well, maybe we have to play with it a little bit. Because when you get up to So I'm just pressing my up arrow key and the code is working. So I want to be able to turn in a way that kind of works well. What happens though once I get up here? I don't want to move anymore. So that's not good. So I need to put in some code for that. I'm going to go back to my start button. Oops, that's not working. I'm glad I'm running a little test here because I'm missing something in my start key. So when I go to start game, I'm pointing in the right thing, but I actually want to position my sprite there. So to do that, I'm going to have this little sprite go to the right place. So there is a go to block, and it says go to random position. Well, I actually want it to go to that start button. So it will find your named sprites as a possible place to go. So let's see if I fix the bug where I wasn't positioning it correctly when I start a game. Pressing that again, I'm over there, but I'm kind of not in a good spot there. I want him to be there. So I'm not sure why he's moving in the wrong direction. I'm going to go to my start and see if it could be because the costume is off center. And maybe if I put this more in the middle. I'm not sure why that is not looking so good. And let's move him to new x of -183. It's a little better. So move him 5. So I do need to address the problem of not being able to move him off the screen. I also need to worry about if he hits the side, he's supposed to stop. So I need to put some logic in. So I'm going to go to the control one, and this is where all my logic lives. So I'm going to create an if then else block. So this says if something happens, do something depending on whether the condition I'm going to put in here is true or not true. If this were to be touching the end, I am done. But if I'm touching a side, that's a bad thing. I'm in big trouble. You have to put a conditional in here. I am actually going to use a sensing kind of thing here. So sensing is how I can tell sort of where I am. Now this is a way to do a maze. It's not the way, but it's the way I'm going to be doing it. And I'm going to say if I'm touching a certain color, make an action. Because I know what color this is and I know what color that is. So I'm going to look to see if I'm touching colors that I'm interested in. So I want to see if I'm touching that green color there. Now I want to get it exact. So I'm going to use this little eyedropper and I'm going to hopefully get it on the green so that it's the same green. So this says I'm done. So I think I need some comments here. So I'm just going to add a comment because it's, what am I doing? Put my comment way over there. So if I touch the color of the end button, you win. But if I'm touching the color of the side of the maze, then I lose. Which is very sad. So that's kind of what I'm trying to indicate here. So what should I do if I won? If I'm touching the color here, I think I wanted to say something like, yay, you won. So I'm going to go back to looks because that's where the says are. And I'm going to say, oops, woohoo, I did it. Okay. Now I moved forward onto it, so I guess that's probably okay to just leave it like that. Now I'm going to put another broadcast in for saying end the game. Don't quite know what I want to do yet there, but I know I want to do something. So I'm going to make a new message called end game because I probably want to put up some kind of window. Do you want to do it again? Right? Do you want to play again? Do you want to go to another level? So I'm just going to leave that for now. Now, what about if I'm not touching that? There's another thing that can happen here. I actually need another if. So I'm going to put another if in here. Going back to sensing. What if I'm touching a different color? What if I'm touching the color of the side? So this one may be a little trickier to get it exactly. I'm trying my best here. If you're touching the side, that's really bad, right? So I'm going to say something else. I'm going to say, just for 2 seconds here, maybe I should do that one for 2 seconds too, don't know. But I'm going to say, he's a cat, right? Me Ouch. Right? I lose. Okay, and then what? Well, I moved him. He may be getting off the screen, so I'm going to actually move back from those 5 steps. So how do you do that? You go back to the move, and then instead of going +5, I'm going to say -5. And what that is going to do, hopefully, is put me back. So I'm going to test it a little bit. So I'm just pressing my up arrow key. Okay, oop, he hit the blue. That's bad. And he moved it kind of back to where he was. Exactly what I want. Now can I go back to where I want to start? Not too bad. And now I'm just going to keep pressing my up arrow key. Pretty good. And I hit the side. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. So that's looking good. Now, how do the other keys work? Almost the exact same thing. Now I'm going to just duplicate this whole big block. And think about, what if I now press the right arrow key? So I'm going to change that to say right arrow. And now which direction? If I'm turning right, I want to go that way. And again, I can play with the directions here. I want him to go like that. So that's 93. I really want it to be 90. I want him to do that. So instead of pointing into direction 0, I'm going to point to 90. But then what? You know what? Once I do that, everything is kind of the same. I keep going until either I get to the green button. Get rid of that guy. Either I get to the green button or I hit aside again. So this is actually all the same code. So here's where I may want to be a little bit clever, and we thought about this a little bit when we were doing our design. We're going to see a lot of repeating code for the arrow keys. So I'm going to create a new block. Down here, under My Blocks, you can create your own block. This is sort of like a broadcast receive. You could have done that. I think in this circumstance, making a block works better. When you make blocks, you can, it's almost like what we call in other programming languages making a function, but it only works within the sprite that you're in. If you need to talk with other sprites, you have to use the broadcast receive. Since every sprite needs to know about start game, I'm going to leave that as a broadcast, but only within here where I'm worrying about moving this sprite, I'm just going to create this make a block. So you give it a name. I'm going to call this move forward. Oops. And you can add inputs. So I could, if I wanted to, actually add an input for number of steps. That might be kind of cool. But I think for now, we'll just keep it simple. So here's my move forward. And you'll see as you start coding in here, these get a little crowded. Where is it all the same? Around here by this move. That was the same. So I'm going to put this here. And then I have a new block, move forward, that I can put here. And then I don't need this anymore. And you can get rid of stuff by just kind of throwing it away. I'm just going to put another block. So let's see what happens here. If I'm going up, that's working fine because it's calling this set of blocks. Let's say turn right. It'll hit the side. So I've actually saved myself a lot of coding because the up arrows are now pretty easy. When I do my next one, I'm going to duplicate this blocks now, and let's say I want to go down. So the only thing that needs to change is what direction. And so which way is down? So that's around 180 degrees. So I'll change that to 180. I'm just going to type it in. And then what about move left? I think that's the only one I'm missing. When I receive the left arrow, so which direction is that? Let's play with this a little bit. This way, so it looks like -90. I'm hitting the sides. Okay. So I can turn right. I might actually be able to test to see if my end button is working. I want to go down. Hopefully when I hit that guy, I won. I think we've got like a real basic part of the game done. And I think the only thing sort of missing is you know, I'm still able to move around and I probably don't want to do that. So what do I want to do when I win? So we created an end game message here. So what is it that I want to have happen when you end? And I probably want to have something pop up that says, do you want to play again? Let's see if we can create something that does that. So I'm going to need a new sprite. I'm just going to call this one Play Again Box, because I want it to kind of look like a window. So I'm just going to create a fairly simple shape here. Right, something that looks like that. And I might want it to actually be a little bit bigger. I don't think I need it to be this green. I think I'll just use simple white. And then I'm going to put some text in here. And I don't want the text to be white. Make the text be black. Say play again. Oops, and that is kind of a boring font. And you can actually change the fonts here by clicking that button. Handwriting looks kind of nice. And just kind of make it look sort of nice. Okay. And I'll try grouping it, which didn't seem to stick last time, but. So play again. Now I need buttons. So I'm going to have a yes and a no. And I think those need to be separate sprites because they're going to be doing different things. So I'm going to make another sprite. So I want to make one of these. And make it a little bit thicker. And I'm going to put some text in here. Yes. Make sure that's black. Center it a little bit. Try grouping it. And this will be my yes button. And then I'm going to create one like it, which is going to be my no button. It's going to say no. And it needs to go over here somewhere. And I'm just going to look at the Y because I want them to be the same. 28 and 28. Well, it looks kind of good. And then I have to decide what to do. That's where the code comes in. So I'm going to put another comment here to say this is my no button so that I remember where I am. And I'm trying to think what I actually want to do when it's no. First I have to react to somebody hitting it. So I'm going to go to an event. When this sprite is clicked, well, what am I going to do with that? I actually have to hide this whole window, which is a little harder than it looks. So I'm actually going to broadcast a new message, which is hide play again dialog. And when I receive this message, I'm going to hide myself. That means you will not be able to see this sprite. And so that goes under looks. I'm going to say hide. But think about what else is going to have to change. This will have to hide, and this whole window will have to hide. And I also have to think about displaying all these things. When I receive another message, which is show me, so I'm going to create a new one, which is called show play again dialog. I'm going to want to show myself. Right, so it's actually kind of tricky doing all this. I could also make sure I'm in the right spot The no button, just to make sure that nothing gets moved around. Strictly, you probably don't need this. Put it in here. 258.28, fine. Now, when I receive the start of the game, I want to make sure none of this is showing. The yes one's going to have to do a lot of these things. So this is my yes button. I'm going to put my comment in here because I want to do something different when it's yes. And what is it that I want to do when it's yes? Well, I want to kind of do everything that the no button did, but I also want to start the game again. So when this sprite is clicked, I am going to broadcast start the game, which should put everything back in the position. And I also want to then hide myself. I'm going to broadcast, hide the dialog buttons, hide the play, that's what it's called, hide play again one. And then when I receive this, I have to know to hide myself. So when I receive this, I want to do that. But I also need to know when to show myself. I think what I'm going to do with the other one, which was put me in the right spot, so I'm going to go to, and this one should be 36.28, and then I want to show. Not sure I have everything, but we'll know it when we test it. Now the play again thing also needs to be able to show itself. So a few things need to happen here. When I receive start game, let's see. When the game is started, definitely want to be hidden. When I receive the start game, I don't want to be seen anymore, so I can probably just hide myself. Should probably be enough. It looks like I forgot to put the comment in here that I want to put in that this is the play again box, right? That little dialog window. So I don't know if I need to do anything else. I think I might. Oh, okay. When I receive endgame, I'm going to have to do something. Because, right, the game ended. I have to know to actually display myself. So my position is -825. So I'm going to go to that one. Again, do you necessarily need to do that? Probably not, but I'm just being extra cautious that it goes where I want. And I want to show myself. It's a looks. And I want to broadcast those buttons to be shown. I think I made an event for that. I think that's not going to work. But let's see what happens here. I think that's too much. So let's see if this works. Not very good. So these need to be hidden when I hit start game. So let's see, am I not doing that? Yeah, so I need something when we say start game. When I receive start game, probably just want to hide. And I want to do that here too. Go and hide this guy. See if that looks better. So far, so good. Whoop. I hit that, so let's restart. Oh, I didn't code the restart. Working my way around. And hopefully this works. Hitting here. Okay. Don't know how to quite fix that. But if I say no, that didn't work. So, and let me try yes. Well, that kind of looked okay, except it still says, woohoo, I did it. So I think what needs to happen with my Scratchy is when I get a start game, I want him to say nothing so that we get rid of that. and then I think he'll look good. Whoops. Nothing is really nothing. Okay, so that part looked good. So things didn't look so good when I said no. So I'm going to go back to this play again button here. And I'm noticing that I don't have any reaction to when I say hide everything. I'm going to go back to when I receive hide play again dialog. Kind of need to hide myself. So let's see if that will fix it. Maybe. And I also kind of want Scratchy to not keep saying woohoo, I won. So I think when I pop up this guy, endgame, I think Scratchy needs to not say anything. So if I go back in here, when he receives endgame, do I have anything happening here? So how about when I receive endgame, maybe I just say nothing? We'll see if we fixed bugs. Again, debugging, this is what it's all about. So I'm moving this guy up, up, up. Moving him over, this is part of the, I should have made an even simpler maze, but you don't want it too hard if every time you have to test, you have to go through this. Okay, that looks good. If I say no, just kind of where I was, I can probably get him to hit again. If I say yes, it puts it back here. The only thing that's missing is I don't really like this because then I don't see this. So I think what I shall do is when he wins, I'm going to have him say it for just a few seconds because you can't really see that he's even saying it. So I'm going to copy that in here. And I probably don't need that say anymore. A little hard to take out. Maybe this is good. Maybe while I'm here, I'll just code up the restart. I think the restart should be fairly simple. I think all I need to do there is this restart button. I have stuff in here, I think, because I copied it. So this one, he does go to, I think, that particular one. You can go to the back layer. And this, nope, not you. When this sprite is clicked, I actually just want to start the game. I think that's all I'm kind of missing from here. And let's see what we got. Pressing the green button. Maybe I'll move out of that sprite because things are wrong. It's probably from here. Going up, going over. Now I'm going to have it hit. I actually haven't tested move left. So let's say I'm going in the wrong direction and I hit. I lose. I can press restart now and I can get going again. So that's good. And then let's test what happens if you win. Okay, 2 seconds, and then play again, yes or no. If I say no, I just kind of stay there. I can always restart it again, or I can say yes, and it puts me in that right position. So that was kind of a lot of code for a relatively simple little project. So popping up a window, there's a lot of work involved with that. So what I would challenge you to do, if you've never really done Scratch before and this is a first experience for you, maybe see if you can make some changes to this. And one thing you could do is certainly make a more complex maze. And you can keep this one. So if you go in here and you make another backdrop, you can either copy this one and start with it, and then maybe make more lines and things in there. And then when the start is clicked, you can actually put something in the backdrop about which one you want. So when my green flag is clicked, I actually want this backdrop. So I'm going to switch to, I think it's this one, but you can actually make another one. Think about what happens when you hit the end button. Instead of play again, yes, no, maybe you can say, do you want to go to the next level and have it do a different backdrop of mazes. So lots of little things, and I'm sure I'm not even thinking about stuff. Maybe you want to have a score of some kind. So maybe if they do it beat their time, they get a prize. Maybe you want to put some other obstacles in here. We thought about this during the design that maybe gives you points. So if you go around something that you should get points. If you hit a gold piece or something like that, you get points. So there's lots of different things you can do to make this way more interesting than it is now. So, okay, this is long enough, but give it a try. I'm sure the way you do it will be better than the way I'm doing it. And like I said, I'm not a Scratch expert. I'm learning along with you. And so you'll probably think of even more interesting things to do. So as always, thank you for watching and thank you for listening, and happy coding.